Hey everybody, welcome in Guerrilla Sports Off Ice. This isn't the studio, this is Family Sports. We are at the Avs practice facility. It is the first official day of the new season. Rookies were on the ice getting ready for the rookie tournament this weekend. So this is going to be an episode packed with some interviews and just kind of previewing this first official weekend of the season. Always really fun. I'm Jesse Montaño, going to be joined by Meghan Angley in just a moment. We got Mark behind the proverbial glass today. Excited for this show. You guys are going to hear from Willsie. You're going to hear from Gavin Brindley. All of that should be a great show. As always, you guys know I want to remind you about our great friends over at RefiJet. Did you know that you could refinance your auto loan? Well, with RefiJet, you could save around $150 every month, all with just a soft credit pull and zero hassle. Lower payments, flexible terms, maybe even some cash back right in your pocket from your car's equity. RefiJet does the work. You get the savings. Start today at RefiJet.com, the faster, easier way to refinance. Hey everybody, welcome in. Jesse Montaño, Meghan Angley, and Meghan, we made it. We made it through.
We are so back.
We're so back. We are back at the Avs practice facility. We actually won't be here all weekend. We'll be at proxy facility.
I feel weird about it. It's even further, so.
Oh, see.
Nervous.
Not for me, folks. I could walk to the new facility. I might even do that just for the hell of it.
Just to flex on us?
Just to flex on everybody. Show up sweaty as hell, but I might just do it. No, should be a fun weekend. We are at the Avs practice facility today. They are hosting the rookie tournament this year, Meghan, so I'm not going to take the easy shot at Family Sports, but yeah, to host a tournament like that, you need to go somewhere else. How are you doing back at the rink today?
Oh, I'm so good. I'm excited for this tournament. I know maybe in years past, there's always been that show-stopping name that you're looking at in the tournament, and I feel like there's just a handful of guys that maybe aren't on the showstopper level, but a handful of guys that I'm very interested in seeing. And I'm excited to see which ones do emerge as the ones that take over these games this weekend. And so I'm excited.
And to your point, even, and I'm not trying to downplay, I always love the rookie tournament because it's kind of a little bit like, and people are going to roll their eyes, it's a little March Madness-y because from like the standpoint of these are kids who are playing for their careers. They're playing for their lives out there. And so the intensity is always really high. It's a really fun weekend. But to your point, the tournament is whittled down a little bit. The teams that, it was 6 teams before, just 3 teams this weekend. And with that, you've got 3 teams that are all looking to be, Stanley Cup contenders for a couple of them, playoff contenders for Utah. So yeah, there isn't, like last year, Macklin Celebrini was there with the Sharks. The year before you had Mason McTavish. The year before that you had, or I guess maybe it was 2 years before that, you had Trevor Zegras. Not really much of that, but to me, I think that means we're going to see a lot more polish this weekend from all teams involved.
Yeah, there's certainly that representation on the Colorado side too, with players that have pro games under their belt, players that have NHL games under their belt, and Prishepov. So I'm excited to see how those more experienced players in the tournament separate from their peers because it's a necessity at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, how are you doing? I know we were a little stressed when we all first got here. We got a thumbs up. We got a thumbs up for Mark. Everyone's doing well. Hockey's back. You can't be in a bad mood today. Meghan, let's unpack just a little bit of not only what we saw, but a little bit of what we were expecting to see this weekend. Different setup here at camp this year. We only got about, an hour of an on-ice session for these kids. These are, really hard to evaluate, take big things out of these types of days. But I guess let's just start with a name that I know you talked to Willsie about. I should let everyone know. We are going to have, Meghan did 2 outstanding interviews today with Gavin Brindley and Willsie. And you'll hear those right now on the pod, right here on the pod as we kind of move through. But one of the names that you talked about as being maybe a little bit of a surprise last year in how quickly he was able to get to the NHL, Nikita Prishepov. A player that, came in last year as a 7th-round pick. Wills was telling you, we didn't really know where he was going to fall. A little bit older guy. expectations are elevated this year, not only I think from the team and from the media standpoint, but from the fans as well for Nikita Proshepov after his ability to make an impact in the NHL last year.
Yeah, he was thrust into a weird situation with the injuries cropping up at the beginning of the year. He earned a unique opportunity, months removed from the draft. Getting into NHL games is really difficult to ask of a player who's just now getting acclimated to the pro level. And what Proshepov did this last year is pretty remarkable in terms of getting adjusted, especially at the American League level, and kind of ending the year on a high. He had a really fantastic play in the Barracuda series, and he just got a bit banged up by the end. And so you didn't get to see him kind of finish through the end of the playoff experience with the Eagles, but he was a difference maker for them. And I think it's significant for a rookie season, first-year pro, for a player to have made that impact. And so I'm excited to see what he does, because my personal assessment of his game is when I first saw him, I just thought he was a little bit raw. It wasn't that there was any one vulnerability, weakness that I saw. It was just that he wasn't necessarily excelling at all of these things put together. He was doing just pretty well, not a liability. And so
the old, was it jack of all trades, master of none type situation?
Yes, but in a great way for a prospect.
Yeah,
There's so much then opportunity for him to build off of that. And so I think he absorbed a lot from the guys that he got to play with the Eagles last year. Willsie mentions TJ Tynan, but Ivan, a player in a very similar position as him, but plays the game in a way that obviously rewarded Ivan with several NHL games. So Proshepov absolutely should look to what it is that Ivan is doing. And so I saw little habits then build into Proshepov's game by the end of it all, that he was more aggressive on the forecheck and he was winning these battles, coming away with pucks. And so I really liked it. I think that's a compilation of a lot of different things, but seeing Proshepov use some of his physicality and then meet it with some skill, some really great plays from behind the net, especially in that San Jose series. So he really married those things in a complementary way and took kind of that big step forward. So I think Willsie says it, but he just never stopped improving, and that's what excites me about him.
Yeah. Cooper Gay is a guy that you have been really high on since he first showed up in Loveland. It was right near the end of the season, March, April-ish. As a player that, you just, one of your first things when you and I talked after he got to Loveland last year was you're like, wow, he just looks polished. This just looks like a player who's ready to step into that pro game. We got a chance to talk to him down in the locker room. Big, strong kid. Brian Willsie talked about that with you as well, that not just does he show that on the ice, but he gets into the gym. Just a big guy. What did you think of him out on the ice today?
Yeah, having the benefit of seeing him in a game, I'm excited to see the game action. I think that's where his game really thrives and shines, because it is how he leverages his physicality in particular. He absolutely fits the power forward mold. I think that his skating, too, is really effective at this level, and it only gets better from here, I think, as he adjusts to the pace. And so being able to have the speed with the power that he skates with makes him difficult to play against. And, I just look at player comps that he should look to and aspire to be more like, and Val Nichushkin springs to mind. Yep. And that is because of how much of a beast he is physically, and the way in which he can leverage that then to just strip players of pucks in the offensive zone. And so I'm excited to see him kind of bully guys in this tournament, to be quite honest with you, but in a really effective way. Not so different from like Jason Poland did, that really won us over, but there is something about his size that I think is just going to kind of destroy some of these young players.
Well, so, when we were talking to Cooper Gay in the locker room, and I believe it was you who had asked him, like, oh, what are you looking to, get out of this weekend? And he gave kind of the generic answer, and then he goes, and maybe fight, I don't know. And you asked him, like, oh, are you a fighter? He's like, I've been in 2. It's like,
so you just want to fight.
Right. It's like, okay, something didn't go great for you this summer, and you got some anger you need to get out. But I just thought that was so funny, because the way he said it, you're like, oh, big fighter. I didn't know that about him. No.
Didn't know that about him either. That's why I asked.
Just wants to fight.
Just wants to fight. I hope he doesn't too. Like, you're better than this, but like, you don't need to. But I do think that he's going to be quite a force on the ice.
Well, and Megan, it is so funny, because you and I have actually talked about that at these tournaments in the past, where you, in my opinion, you see kids get caught up in that of, oh, I need to make an impact. I need to do something. And I think you can sometimes actually see guys go too far. And, and it's not like these games count for anything, but, as guys trying to earn contracts and make rosters, every year, one of these teams has a guy who is trying to make a physical impact. He's trying to, throw his weight around, get in fights and all that stuff. And it just ends up a parade to the penalty box. And to me, as someone, if I'm on one of those coaching staffs, it's like, okay, lack of discipline, not, poor in-game awareness. People have heard me complain about Cody McLeod for years. One of my number one issues with Cody McLeod was he had horrible in-game awareness, dropped the gloves when his team was going on a 2-on-1 the other way. Not that I think Cooper Gay is going to do any of that, but to your point, don't go out of your way to mix stuff up in these types of games trying to make a name for yourself. I feel like that usually does kids more harm than good in these tournaments.
And I think, naturally, the way that he plays, he doesn't have to even consciously think of it in that way. It's even just the power of which he drives to the net, which I saw today in kind of just the drill setting, that I think makes him such a force that I don't think it's necessarily laying a big hit. I think it's just the way that he can have guys just completely slip off his back because they can't even hang with him. He's just too big. He's just too powerful, especially coming in and out of battles, that he's going to be the one coming away with the puck. And so I think it's going to translate more like that. And I hope I don't eat my words and he's taking penalties all weekend.
So before we get into the Willsie interview, just a couple more quick, questions for your thoughts. Alex Gagne is a guy that we talked a lot about in the lead up to this when we had Arif from Colorado Hockey Now on with us. He brought him up. You know what my first thought was, Megan, when I saw him on the ice today? I was like, 6'5" on skates, maybe. Big guy for sure, but when you think 6'5" defenseman, he wasn't as towering over a lot of guys out there in general. What were your thoughts on what you saw from Alex Gagne out there today with the rookies?
I had the same observation about the size, and I want to qualify it in a second, but I just wanted to read out to you some of his stats coming out of college because we alluded to it on the show with Arif.
Yep.
First in D-zone puck battles in the NCAA, second in D-zone stick checks, third in D-zone denials, seventh in D-zone blocked passes, and he won the year before last the Rod Langway Best Defenseman Award with his team. So this is absolutely a defensive defenseman, good in his own end. And so today, in this setting, there's still a lot that remains to be seen. But he was really aggressive in his gap control. And actually, because of how low he gets to the ice, I think is where some of that size disappeared observationally. And I don't necessarily mind it, right, if it's effective coverage otherwise. But I do think that will be maybe the next thing that we're looking for, especially in game action, is how he leverages that size more efficiently, more effectively. Because again, getting low like that gives him a little bit more mobility. Not a bad thing for such a big player, but you don't want to see it take away then from what the size adds to what he's trying to do in defending. And so there are just a couple of things like kind of along the wall, around the boards, where I felt like he seemed timid, like reserved. And I wonder if some of that's too just like this isn't the time or the place to be launching guys into the sun. So I'll be curious to see if he feels a little more confidence to express himself physically in the tournament, because he did seem to just be a little bit reserved in this setting today.
Yeah, and like you said, for big guys like that, like I remember, you'll sometimes see, and really not anymore as goaltenders have gotten bigger, but you've seen in the past big goalies who have a really low stance get that center of gravity a little bit lower, and I wonder if, like you said, that's something for him where he feels he's a little bit more mobile, or since he's such a big guy that maybe he feels a little bit more stable and sturdy when he kind of gets low like that. But I'm glad you picked up on that too, where I was just looking at him like, I was really expecting his size to like pop off the ice.
Same.
And again, he definitely was one of the bigger players out there, but was kind of just in the mix.
And, in thinking about it too, there's, I think, good size represented in this tournament across the board in different ways. So I think there's just bigger players out there than we're used to seeing on the whole, because I saw him finally by Brian Willsie standing upright, and that's when it clicked to me, okay, he is 6'5".
Yeah. Any other players in particular you want to talk about before we get to Willsie? I know you guys did talk about a lot of guys in particular, so I don't want to step on any toes of that because it was such a great conversation.
No, we have all weekend too. I even felt this way talking with Willsie. There's players that we don't even get to in that conversation that I'm still excited to see this weekend. So I'll save it for the rest of this.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, let's hear from Brian Willsie right now with his chat with Meghan Angley, Director of Player Development for the Colorado Avalanche.
How are you doing, Willsie?
I'm good. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. How's your summer been since Dev Camp?
Relaxing. Yeah, back home in Ontario with my boys and wife, and away from no travel, no hotels, which is nice in the summer because it gets busy now. So nice to relax, but fired up to get going again.
Can you tell me a little bit about how this offseason maybe differed from others, gearing up for the draft is normal, but then there's some coaching changes to the AHL side?
Yeah, so in a normal summer, development, management, Kevin McDonald and the AHL coaches, we get together on calls and talk about a plan going into the season. Andrew Cogliano's involved in that now as well. So, but having to fill 2 vacancies there with the head coach and the assistant coach, that made it a busier summer for Kevin. And then when they come in, it's almost like onboarding. You're going over the present players, the returning players, I guess, and then the young players who I've worked with in development. So there was, a lot more communication through the summer than we've had in the past. But this rookie camp tournament is a good kind of initiation to get things going for that staff, as they're the main coaching component of this camp.
And I imagine Kevin McDonald does the heavy lifting
Yeah.
in that coaching search, but do you have a little bit of a role in advocating for different things that you want these coaches to hit on developmentally?
For sure. And Kevin came straight to us, Andrew and myself, just on things that we'd like to see in a head coach there. Obviously, we had two pretty special ones before that with Greg and Aaron. But no, he comes right to us, and we all discuss it as a group. And that's a big list. It's a very popular job. It's a great place to live. It's a great building. We always have a strong team, and it's a great affiliation agreement we have. So he got a lot of attention, and it's a lot of work for him to get that list down, and he used us in helping him do that. But ultimately, super happy with landing on Mark and Derek.
And I'm sure it's difficult to boil it down to just a few key
Yeah.
things, but where are some of those tenets that you were looking for in a coach?
Yeah, Mark having the playing experience, knowing both leagues very well, just a really a driven, organized hockey guy. He came in and the interviews were great. The way his development kind of thoughts and the way he sees the development path for the players, emphasizing the winning in the American League, but also getting these players ready, coming from amateur, whether it's college or junior, and the way to get them good American League players, but ultimately, that's just a stepping stone in getting them to the NHL. So that part of it is key in that role.
And what can fans, players expect in Mark Letestu?
There's a lot of similarities to Aaron Cheekloff. Personality-wise, very engaging, very detailed, cerebral guy. Thought out answers. I just met him this summer, so I've enjoyed my time with him. Met him in person for the first time this week. So, very similar to Aaron in that regard, but also has his own flair of, what he wants to bring to the team. And I think he's excited about the roster that we have and the young players coming in, and also the high expectations come with being in Loveland.
And one of those players, Gavin Brindley, he has some familiarity with already having coached him.
Yep.
What is the file on Gavin Brindley as a prospect?
I didn't get a chance to see Gavin in Cleveland, but I saw him in Michigan and in his draft year. Ultra competitive and skill, and you mix those two things together, then you have a hockey player. So you saw that in Michigan. Your first year pro is tough, whether you're coming out of a junior or college, and you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about how you need to train in the summer, how you want to approach your second year. And, talking to Gavin, those were all things he used as a good experience for him. And now he's excited for the fresh start. So, I think the high-end skill will be pretty attractive for people to see, and, being a big part of that offense there. But then when you back it up with the competitiveness, that's an exciting player for us.
And what is the expectation for Sean Behrens this year, coming off a difficult season, having dealt with injury last year?
Yeah, it's just one day at a time for Sean. We're excited that he's full participant in this camp. You think back to development camp, still wearing the red jersey, and you just think it seems like forever. That's tough. Your first year pro, he had such a great career at DU. We were excited about the way he finished and came in, and then to have an injury like that and just in a weird play. It's integrating yourself into pro hockey is tough, but then he did it being an injured player the whole time. So really, he's coming in. It is his first real year, even though he was there last year. So defense is different too. The development path for defense is usually longer than a forward. Just learning the game and the experiences and the touches. So in a good spot there. Tim Branham and the coaching staff there just already done a ton of time. He knows the systems. He knows how we play, just being around it last year. So that learning curve is very short, but just he needs to get game action. game action, lots of it, and then just keep evaluating.
And what can you tell me about the rest of this defensive group in this tournament? A couple new faces in Alex Gagne, kind of newer faces in players like Connor Kelly, Hank Kempf.
Yeah, some of those college free agents, it's a great opportunity. We spend quite a bit of time scouting those guys and then finding them having them come in at the end of the season. It's very valuable experience that they get after their college years, and they're older players. It's a bit different than you look at Sage Weinstein. He comes in as a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
And he's sitting beside a 23 or 24-year-old, both rookies, but maturity-wise, body maturity-wise, there's a difference there. So you have to approach them differently. They're not the same. They're not the same learning curve for those two type of players. So we'll get a good glimpse of those guys this weekend. Alex Gagne, he's a big man.
Yeah.
Just notice him in practice there. Comes in as a real good defensive defenseman from a good college career in New Hampshire, so we're excited to see him. You see someone like Sage, who was on a real high-end Spokane team in the WHL, but again, he's 20, so there's going to be a learning curve there. So mixing them in with, we have some of the best vets I think you can get in the American Hockey League, wherever they land, but with seeing Jack Ashon and Wyatt Amont and those guys around here, they're pretty special guys to learn from.
And Gagne fits kind of a different model of player than some of the other defensemen that have come up through this system. And just knowing the way that the Avs like to play, what is the path forward for a player like that?
Well, just getting into pro hockey, that's an adjustment. So, as a first-year pro, a bigger player, even today in practice, you take them aside on a one-on-one, like you can impose yourself, and just learning how to impose yourself and use your size to your advantage and strength. Sometimes they don't really know how strong they are. So learning that, in college hockey, it's, playing a ton of minutes and a ton of opportunity here, understanding that, you may have a lesser role, at the start, and then as you gain experience, it increases. But there's something to learn almost every day in the American Hockey League, and we're fortunate to have that weekend type league where you can practice all week and learn with video and pre-practice and post-practice drills, and then get into the games on the weekend and have another week to learn. So, a player like that, you hope to kind of spoon feed them, not really throw them right in the fire and bring them along slowly and let them learn from practices and games. And it's that size, you can't replicate that, huge hands on them. So it'll be fun to watch them grow.
And I know Sage was injured last year for the rookie tournament. So what is your expectation for him, and how does he separate from some of the other puck-moving defensemen?
Sage, the number one asset for him is his skating. He just gets around the ice so well. That's what impressed us his first year here in development camp and rookie tournament when we signed him. Going back to junior, defending Berkeley Cat and high-end players in practice every day, that just helps you. So the ask for Sage going into the summer and from development camp now was just to get bigger and stronger.
Yeah.
He's got naturally a slighter frame, but if he wants to play that defending style, because the needle is kind of in the middle for Sage for his defensive D or offensive D.
Yeah.
Like, he defends hard, but he skates so well that he can skate himself out of trouble and make plays that way. So just kind of, bringing him along that, use your skating to your advantage. You may be outsized in certain battles, so there's a different path to winning that puck battle, having a good stick, and those are things you don't always learn in junior, but in pro, it's something that he's going to learn very quickly.
And what's the latest on Taylor McCarr?
Taylor, not cleared for rookie tournament, but coming in the right direction, I would say. Yeah, progressing well. You guys have seen him skate here.
Yes.
So progressing well, no setbacks. Just one of those that just takes time.
Okay.
It's until the doctor says, yep, good to go. It just takes time. But it's nice to see the progress that he's made and him skating out here now. And then, before too long, we'll be seeing him flying around on the ice up north.
Is that around a training camp time, or maybe past that?
I'm not sure of the exact date, but I wouldn't pinpoint it in training camp, but it's in the next weeks, I would say. Yeah, is the hope, but again, he's tracking well, and it's those players. It's always great when they can get that little taste in the spring.
Yeah,
he knows the guys. He gets experience because they never get an NHL training camp, and he still hasn't had one.
Yeah,
being in college.
Oh.
Yeah, still hasn't had one, but it's just progressing well, and we're excited because we saw some good things in April from him.
Yeah, what were some of those early returns and what you saw from Makar?
Yeah, just another player that skates really well, a big player that skates really well. So pursuing pucks, turning pucks over, making plays after turning those pucks over. Playing under the two college coaches he had in Hockey East were great learning experiences for him. He got a lot of good habits from them, and now it's just learning that pro game. But the way he can skate and get in on pucks, and he has a heavy shot too. So putting all those things together. Is one thing in college when you're an older player, but now getting into pro at the age he's at, I think it's it's another player we're excited about that can help that lineup.
And I'll turn to the forward side to wind this down a little bit.
Yep.
But Nikita Prishepov, kind of an interesting first introduction to the pro game and getting in some NHL games straight from the draft, and obviously a pretty good season up with the Eagles as well. Comes to an end with a little bit of an injury, but I think otherwise a really strong player in that Barracuda series. What was the overall assessment of Nikita Prishepov's first year?
Well, if you think back to 1 year ago today, before rookie camp, he came in as a 7th-round pick, an older 7th-round pick, so he really only had his overage year left in junior, so we weren't sure where he was going to land even. Come to rookie camp, come to NHL camp, did well, went to AHL camp, and then out of that gets himself an NHL deal. So that's a good story for other players, that even though you're a 7th rounder and a 20-year-old, that can happen. So learned a lot early, and was a player that just got better every day. Like it came down to, is he going to get better going back to junior, or can he handle pro? And we felt he could handle pro. He did, and just being around those players, around those coaches, quite often he found himself on a line with TJ Tynan and Wagner, and being around those guys and them helping him practice, and the sturdiness on pucks that got him the NHL recall. And then NHL recalls can be just a 24-hour thing, if you're not trustworthy. But he gained trust, and that's how you stay. So he got the 10 games, which was impressive, and he earned it. It was earned games. And then going into summer, after that injury, he got home for a bit, and then we had a good plan between myself and Andrew Cogliano, put it together, and just improving the skating, just getting that 5-10% better in skating, and he's had a great summer. So we're excited. We're excited to see him tomorrow in rookie tournament for sure, but ultimately through NHL camp and how he navigates that.
And because of all the center options up in Loveland, I've seen him play a little bit of both, and sometimes at this level you see guys get resigned to the wing, but do you see him having a pro future at the center position as well as the wing? Yeah,
I think that you're right. The juniors and the college kids that come to pro, the centermen ultimately start on the wing, just it's easier, more trust. But I think he maybe got a half a dozen or 10 games at center last year. But he's center this weekend, and that's ultimately what we see him as. But I think getting that year as a winger in the American Hockey League it taught him and taught us that he can play that position well as well.
And I know it was such a limited viewing, but Cooper Gay, one of those new additions to this prospect pool, seems like he's a lot of pro habits already built into his game. What do you think of him?
Well, he's a specimen. He's huge. I mean, off the ice in the gym, he takes such good care of himself, and he's completely prepared. So he's left no stone unturned there. And then getting that experience and in the spring and understanding how to use that size. So strong, skates well. And he was ready for pro. He has that pro body. He's got the pro mentality. He's a very mature kid that understands his role and how to play his role well. So I think when you come from college, you can, that size, it really, really helps you, and you can get away with certain things. But now at pro, there's more guys that are that size. You'll see that this weekend, even with some of these prospect teams are playing there. Everybody's big now. So understanding that, how to use that, protecting pucks, making plays after contact, things like that. But he skates so well. So those are pro things that he'll learn early on. And again, I keep saying it, but we're excited for him.
And I know he's not in this tournament, but Bartikov is coming over from the KHL. What is your expectation in terms of NHL readiness?
Yeah, it's It remains to be seen, I think, until you get it's great that he was over here so early. I think that's always positive. Over here early, skating with the players, intermixing with the vets and getting used to the North American ice and the style and the plays and all of that. But, watching him like we did in the last couple of years, he skates so well. And that's, strong skating teams and quick transition and getting in on pucks. That's what we're known as. So that's the player that fits that mold. Who really knows? Hopefully he can step right in and be one of those impact players and use those assets that he has.
And as far as Nabokov, does Pavel Francouz work with Nabokov, or is he more on the scouting side of things?
No, it's kind of, but Pavel wears a few hats, with that. So, he's definitely has the scout as his title, but he is such a way. Player development is a lot about relationships, creating that relationship and trust with players, and that's how we develop that friendship with the player early on, so that they trust us, whether we're critiquing or complimenting or whatever it may be. And Pavel is so good at that. He's such an engaging person. So he's developed that relationship with Nabokov. So it's that relationship that is growing. He's talking to him. You leave them alone when they're in their league and let the coaches do what they do. KHL or OHL or wherever it may be, but you have that relationship, and he wears that player development hat with him, and that's been helpful.
It sounds like Andrew Cogliano is another person who has been wearing many different hats. Yeah. I knew him on the development side with prospects, but then I learned he was also working with Parker Kelly last year. So can you tell me a little bit about how his role has expanded now from last year into this one?
Well, I mean, anything that Cogs does, he does it the way he played. He's all in. He's leaves no stone unturned. Hard worker at whether it's player development or speaking with maybe a third or fourth liner with Colorado, whatever it is. So he's some of the prospects we had last year with Cal Ritchie and Taylor McCarr in college. He worked a ton with them. Or if it may be someone who's called up like an Ivan or Nikita Prishapov, if they're up with Colorado, then he'd spend some time with them. So being around the NHL team. So many different hats for Cogs. Whatever he's doing, he's all in, and he's a huge asset because of just being out of the league so recently. So much to offer those young guys, and they're absorbing everything. They're hanging on his every word. So I think we're lucky to have him be so closely related to those players.
And when he develops these plans for the players, is this something that includes on-ice work together as well as breaking down film?
You mean throughout the season?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not on the ice, but we work with, whether it's Mark Popovic or the AHL coaches or the NHL assistant coaches or skills coaches last year, Toby, whoever it may be, there's constant conversations that you watch a game and you see some things, whether it's wall work or whatever the skill may be or the habit, and then you have that conversation and they say, I got to drill for that. So then it's, it's from the video to the on ice to the game, and then keeps it rinse and repeat. So whether it's the guys in the Eagles that we're watching and seeing there, he spends quite a bit of time with those prospects as well. Whatever you can pick up, a small thing to help. He has such a good eye, watching a game, whether it's just a video or it's live or whatever it is, and pick something up and then get on it right away to help that player. And
this will be the last one, but in addition to things like players popping on the ice offensively, what are you looking for this weekend?
I mean, there's the cliches of competitiveness and, showing their best. And I think the message from us is there's someone in our organization, whether it's an area scout, a GM, assistant GM, or coach that liked you and wanted you here. Show what that is. Show what that is, whether it's a defensive D shutting down plays, making simple plays, or it's an offensive forward that's creating, then create. And don't do things that you're not known for. So we want them to do well. We want them to be confident. We're putting them in positions and spots where they can succeed. And, hopefully they all show their best. It's just super exciting that we can host it here. We've been in a lot of great places, and they've all hosted very, very well there. But for us to have 2 games here, it's exciting for us.
All right, that was Brian Willsie, Director of Player Development. Great interview, first of all.
Thank you.
Your main takeaways from that conversation there with Wills? I know that's a broad strokes question there because there was a lot to take away there.
you know, there's things too that I don't directly talk about with Willsie that I'm thinking back of mind as the conversation is happening. And we talked about it a little bit off air, how I think this has been happening developmentally with the prospects for a little bit now, but I think we're really moving into that direction. And I look at it especially on the forward side, this changing of guard. You know, they no longer have Cal Ritchie as the top prospect in the system, and they move on from Oscar Olausson. John-Luc Foudy is also no longer in the system. And so this forward group is made up of interesting players, right? A lot of college free agents represented in the fold. Nikita Prashepov, obviously from the draft, kind of one of the closer to being NHL-ready players represented in the tournament. And then there's players like Chase Bradley, who got his NHL debut, that I'm just not quite sure is there yet, but this is an important opportunity. Like, I came away from rookie tournament 2 times ago really thinking differently about Jason Poland. And so I'm just excited to see what all of these players have in common is where I'm going with this, is the thing that they do best in their game isn't the flashy, high-skilled players. They're very well-rounded. They're 200-foot players, and they're very good in their own end, very good defensively, aggressive, physical, heavy on the forecheck, right? And it's kind of a necessity now that all of these players need to have that as part of their game, because realistically, the role that they hope to have in the NHL one day is going to be more of a depth role, at least to start, right? And so it's just a requirement. And so, you know, just being one-dimensional, being a really excellent skater like Foudy was, or having a hard shot like Oscar Olausson is not enough. And so these players need to be very well-rounded. And I think that is what I come away from that conversation with Willsie, just looking at what some of these players do well in terms of what I'm looking for in the tournament. I think that the Avs front office is feeling the same way.
Well, and you can tell, you talked to Willsie about it in terms of coaching staff and you know, the decisions that they made there with Mark Letestu too. But you can tell that this is a, you know, everything that you were just describing with the types of players that are out here on the ice now this year at this year's rookie tournament, and what we're expecting to see up in Loveland this coming season. You can tell this has been a very much collaborative group effort to change the identity a little bit of what's going on up there as a result of where this Colorado Avalanche team is at, where the organization is at with assets, you know, picks, high-end prospects that are tradable, you know, things like that. You can tell there's been a concerted effort of, we have to take a different approach to how we're building this prospect pipeline right now, and it needs to be guys. I love the call out right there of like, that can play in the bottom part of a lineup, and it just feels like every new guy out here that we talk about, it's like, ooh, that's a Jared Bednar type guy.
Yes.
Ooh, that's a Jared Bednar type player. And it all feels very intentional. Brian Willsie did mention Taylor McCarr working his way back, you know, just slow and steady. He has been out here in a red jersey as well.
I was so sad too, because he was, you know, evasive as to a specific timeline. And it made me sad. It sunk in when he's like, he's going to miss, you know, he like still won't get to be a part of training camp potentially.
Right.
And it made me sad, because you're right. We've been waiting for this moment to finally see him up with the main group and participate in main camp. And honestly, until that moment, that was still my expectation.
I asked Taylor about it whenever that was that we saw him last. I said, how excited are you to be able to be at camp? And he was like, oh my gosh.
And he might be. He
might be. You're totally right.
But
one of the players you did not talk about, or you and I haven't talked a lot about so far on this pod, is Gavin Brindley. And that's maybe the most exciting player for the Avs that's going to be out there on the ice this weekend in terms of his immediate ability to potentially make the roster, have an impact, things like that. We've talked a lot this summer about if this roster is healthy, with the exception of Logan O'Connor, who we know won't be there to start the season for the Avs. There's really not a ton of spots up for grabs, but one of the few that are, we think Gavin Brindley has a shot to make an impact. Now, I liked him more as the skate went on. When we were first watching him, I made the comment to some of the folks in the room. I said, initial impressions, he reminds me a lot of TJ Tynan, just out in this setting. Moves really well, very active, very involved, but there wasn't a lot being like generated out of what Brindley was doing. And keep in mind here, folks, these are drills. This is, you know, really rudimentary type stuff. But as the skate went on, I noticed that aggression. I noticed the fact that he was going to the net more, getting involved. He's loud, kind of vocal out there, mixing it up with guys. What was your impression of seeing Gavin Brindley out there today?
I see the comparison to TJ Tynan just in terms of like the skating. And I appreciate that because
high motor.
It's absolutely high motor behavior.
Yes.
And what I liked though too is, different from a TJ Tynan, is he's slippery. He's aggressive. He kind of plays a little hungry, plays pretty desperate, like good way. And so there's a lot of follow through. He sees it through in these drills till the very end, and he kind of decides the end. And I really appreciate that 100% commitment. It was exactly as advertised because that's not new to him as a player. That's what he's been referred to. What am I trying to say? It's how he's been talked about going back to his draft year. And so the other thing that I didn't know how to politely say to his face is how I think that one thing that's really going to benefit him is his experience having played alongside very high skilled players going back to his time at Michigan with players like Rutger McGroarty and Adam Fantilli. Right. I think that being able to do the blue collar things that I think he does, that high motor, that hard work ethic, it's absolutely necessary, right? Especially being an undersized player. I think you have to be really mindful of how you utilize that at this level too. But then there's this other element of him that I want to see more so in the tournament of how can he complement the skilled players? Can he utilize some of his own vision and playmaking to help offensively too? I'm not necessarily expecting him to be a driver, but can he keep up with the higher skilled players?
So let me, and I apologize for interrupting you, even this weekend, because I was actually just about to say, I want to see him be a play driver in these types of games this weekend, but I completely agree with what you're saying. Otherwise, as we start getting into main camp and stuff like that, how can he, help improve guys that he's playing with? But even for this weekend, you're not expecting him to be much of a play driver?
Well, I don't want that to be the sole thing. Like in this tournament, one thing, looking at his last year, he dealt with injury and the offensive production did not translate from college to pro. And I think that is a testament to the challenges of the AHL. You're dealing with changing talent alongside you. And so you don't have the benefit of consistency, continuity, then dealing with injury on top of it. And that's still true here in Colorado. And so really what I want to see is certainly still some creativity and offensive flashes. But I'm keying in on the defensive part of his game and how he holds up physically, I guess, in the tournament as well, right? Like he has some pro games under his belt, so it's not this completely new experiment, but I want to see him absorb it in an efficient and effective way that doesn't give me concern, because that is the concern. I'm looking at Brindley potentially filling a bottom six role for the Avs, and that's going to come with a lot of responsibility and a lot of physicality, just in looking at even what Jack Drury endured in these playoffs. And Jack Drury, kind of a smaller player as well, so it's not an impossible fit, but you got to do Jack Drury things. And so I don't necessarily think of Jack Drury as a play driver either, but in this tournament, I think it's a lot of different things that I'm looking for.
And Meghan, and shame on me for not doing my job appropriately. I was thinking Brindley was more in the 22, 23 range. He's still only 20. There's a lot of runway here, for a kid like him. And what I liked about what I saw today was, one, he's a very good skater, good speed. Good control on his edges. And like you said, he's aggressive and he gets to the front of the net and he's willing to go in there and try to dictate a little bit of what's happening. And I feel like the issue that you see with a lot of undersized players sometimes is they struggle to, make that adjustment where they're still trying to just be really fast and slippery and getting away from you. And he has a level of that to his game, but I saw him in front of the net more often than anywhere else on the ice in those drills. And I like that. He has if you're going to be undersized, you need to be a good skater. He's got that. He's got the wheels. But I like the fact that he has a little bit of that. I'm trying to think. We talk all the time about how Cale Makar plays bigger than he is. Yeah. It feels like Gavin Brindley's got a level of that too, based on the 60 minutes we saw him on the ice.
Yeah, he's Alex Gagne-sized in spirit.
Yes, yeah.
No, okay,
exactly.
So you know what
6
I like?
6 foot exactly.
You know what I like about this? I don't mean to like paint a contrast. It's just when I think of John Luke Foodie, who came into this league as an excellent skater.
This is such a good comparison.
Through traffic. And then he played on the perimeter. And they were working him out of this habit more as he developed. But what I like about Brindley is he's not a perimeter player.
No.
Out the gate, obviously driving inside ice, a nose for the net. And so it's one thing to just be a good skater, and it's another thing to be fearless. And so
he's not afraid to engage physically. Like I saw him engage contact on several occasions.
Yes, him and Barons, I mean, you know, both smalls, went tumbling to the ice giggling. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
But I liked it, too, because there was that follow-through from both of them, seeing that to the end. And so you're right. He's pretty fearless. It didn't really matter who he's up against in these drills because there are some bigger guys out there, whether on the defensive side, you know, Connor Kelly, Linus Funk, Hank Kemp, all kind of big guys. Gagne, also very, very big. And then on the forward side, even like Cooper Gay, big guy out there, right?
Yeah.
So Brindley, you know, smaller, especially in this group, and didn't really stick out as a problem.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's hear from Gavin Brindley, one of the newest Avalanche forwards. Gavin Brindley sitting down with Meghan Angley.
Joined by the Colorado Avalanche newest addition, Gavin Brindley. Welcome to Colorado. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I wanted to catch up with you and kind of introduce you to some of the Avs fan base who might not be familiar with you just yet. But walk me through back in June when you first learned the news of this trade to Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, very excited. This is a first-class organization with some pretty high-end players, and I'm just very fortunate to be here and get to work and contribute in any way that I can.
Are you excited for the change of scenery at all?
Yeah, I've never been out west before, so excited to experience Denver and test out the golf courses. Helps me hit the ball a little farther, which is great, but yeah, it's been great out here so far.
And this was your last full year pro. Can you tell me a little bit about what that experience was like for you?
Yeah, it was great. I think being a younger guy and playing in the American League, it's a tough league to have success in, and I've learned a lot, and we had an unbelievable group of guys that helped me, and it was a great year for myself just to learn and grow as a player, and I'm excited for year two.
I know you dealt with some injury at points, but can you tell me about some of the challenges and getting adjusted to the game at the pro level?
Yeah, I think just obviously the speed, and guys are bigger, stronger. I think you got to make decisions faster. I think for me, a smaller guy, utilizing my speed and my quickness as much as I can helps me a lot, and hopefully I could do those things going into this year.
What would you say is the biggest wake-up call in those differences at that level?
I don't know. I think at the end of the day, it's still hockey. Obviously, it's pro hockey. It's a step up in college for sure. I think just honestly, I think learning to build chemistry earlier with guys you're playing with, knowing where guys are going to be, and helping each other out. I think that's the biggest thing for going to the pro level as a young guy, and understanding where to be to help guys out and stuff like that. So, like I said, I learned a lot, and I'm excited for you too.
What were the kinds of things that you were told you needed to build out into your game to graduate to the next level within the Columbus organization?
Well, I mean, I think everything. I'm not no superstar myself, so I think touching on everything. I mean, obviously, like I said, smaller guys, so being able to skate and use my quickness is obviously huge. Getting in front of the net, battling bigger guys, and being able to stay there and get to the greasy areas is big for me, and I think those are two of the things that they harped on quite a bit.
And now in a new organization, have you had a chance to connect with the front office, development staff, coaching staff, to learn a little bit about what the expectation is here?
Yeah, absolutely. They've been awesome. Obviously, everyone is very, very dialed in, and everyone wants to achieve the same goal of a Stanley Cup. So I think obviously that starts with the top with Landeskog and McKinnon, and everyone follows those guys, and they do a hell of a job by leading by example from what I've been around so far. And yeah, it's been awesome to connect with the staff and be on the ice with those guys and just learn every day and get better.
What stands out to you about being on the ice with players like that?
I mean, everything. Just the attention to detail, I'd say, is probably the biggest thing. The way they do the drills, they do it 100%. They don't leave anything out there. They take it all when they can, and it's impressive to watch those guys at full speed, like the McKinnons of the world. Just it's really cool to see up close, and it's been awesome so far.
And what's it like to come over with a familiar face and Coach Letestu? How does that continuity maybe help your development?
Yeah, it's great. I think it helps a lot. You know, we had a really good relationship last year, and he helped me out a lot as a younger guy coming into the American League, and it's awesome to have that familiar face around and have that a little bit more comfortability going into this year. And I think he's going to do an unbelievable job for the Eagles, and he's a hell of a coach and hell of a hockey mind. So I think everyone's pretty lucky to have him.
What are some of his strengths as a coach, and what were kind of his areas of specialty? Like, did he work with the forwards, PK, power play?
Yeah, he worked with the forwards, power play. Obviously, I think his biggest strength is being in the game for however many years that he was. He's played on a lot of teams with a lot of good players, and he understands the game from a player's perspective, which I think is really important at the pro level, and especially for younger guys. Being able to relate with guys like myself and other younger guys in the league, and having that inside hockey mind, I think is huge for a lot of younger guys coming in the league. So, yeah, I'm just excited to get working with him, and it's going to be great.
And before your pro career, you come through an excellent program at Michigan. What kind of an influence did that have on your career?
Awesome. I think, I don't think any other school would have been better for me. And we had an unbelievable group of guys and a great class. We had a big class with 12 and some pretty good hockey players in that class, and some unbelievable teams. And unfortunately, we didn't get it done. But, every day coming to the rink was so much fun. We had a really tight-knit group, and every day was just a day to get better and be on the ice with a bunch of really good hockey players that would push you and get the most out of yourself. So my time at Michigan was unbelievable, and I could thank so many people for helping me get there. But, it was one of the best times of my life for sure.
And one of those really good players, Adam Fantilli, you get drafted together. Can you tell me a little bit about what it was like playing with a player like that in his Hobey Baker year? Obviously a high caliber, full-time NHLer, straight out the gate. What did you take away from that opportunity? Yeah,
I think his competitiveness every day when he comes to the rink. Him and I were very tight and got very tight when we got to Michigan. And another guy, Rucker McGorty, we played together for quite a bit. And it got to a point we were getting on the ice and maybe missing a couple classes together and having some fun competitions. But, I think the biggest thing that stands out is competitiveness. He wants to get better every day. He wants to win every hockey game. He wants to score every shift that he can. He's a special player and a special person as well, and I think Columbus is very lucky to have him.
And if you were to watch tape on a player that you would hope to emulate either in today's NHL or recent NHL, who would that be, and what kinds of things do you want to take away from their game?
Yeah, I think a guy that I've watched a lot growing up is just Braden Point, the way he skates, the way he gets to the net, the way he creates space for himself, the way he battles, the way he's one of the best players come playoff time. It's really impressive to watch him, and that's a guy that I've watched quite a bit over the past couple of years. Once again, just going back to the skating, I think it's really important to be able to skate in today's game, no matter how big or how small you are. And I think just watching him night in, night out has helped me quite a bit, and he's a guy that I'll keep following for sure.
And your work ethic is something people talk about, very high motor, very 100% player. What is it like? Where did that start for you, and what drives you to be that kind of player?
Honestly, I think, just wanting to be on the ice every day and loving coming to the rink, playing a lot of different sports growing up, and competing with different types of people and different types of players has always been something that excites me. I think having that culture of just working hard every day when you come to the rink, I think my parents kind of instilled that in me from a young age. And I just think that's a non-negotiable. I think that should be something that you should have every single day you come to the rink and every single day you step onto the ice. I think that's the least you could do is work hard and work your hardest every day.
And going into this tournament, what kinds of things do you hope will pop in your game?
Yeah, it's fun. It's exciting to play hockey again. I know the first game, everyone's probably going to be flying and running around, and it's great. It's good. It's awesome to be back on the ice, and it's awesome to be playing a game again. But I think just getting to my game as quick as I can and using my speed and working and being physical and taking pucks to the net, I think those are things that I need to do tomorrow. And once again, just really excited to get out there and play a game.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right, that was Gavin Brindley. Great kid. Big shout out to Gavin. Things moved kind of quick today, so we were kind of getting some stuff set up on the fly, and he's like, no rush at all, just sat in here and chatted with us. Seemed like a really, really good kid, and that's you know, Megan, this is going to sound maybe silly or whatever, but like I really do. I put a lot of stock in that, or, you know, what type of people, not just, you know, players or prospects, but just, you know, pro athletes are, because I think that there's such a big part of, you know, the discipline and having to be around people and changing environments that usually it kind of forges, you know, a pretty good person that's very personable. Honestly, sitting there talking with him before you guys sat down to have, you know, your official chat there, I said, I like this guy. Like, you can tell he's got his head screwed on right.
I really liked him in his draft year. I remember, and it's because of everything you hear about his work ethic. I love this type of player, right? Like, I imagine he'll become more familiar with Logan O'Connor now being part of this organization, a great player to look to emulate in terms of consistency. And so what I liked about his answer when I asked him about kind of how he came to be this hardworking player that always gives 100%. And he just talked about how he loves showing up to the rink. And it's something I don't want to breeze by too quickly, because at this level, it's probably safe to say, like, these guys enjoy playing hockey and they're very committed to it. But to hear the authenticity of, I just love coming to the rink. I don't know that every player loves coming to the rink the same way.
Yeah.
And so you could just tell, like, that love of game is certainly what drives a lot of what he does and why he does it full send. And I really appreciate that.
Well, and I can't remember who it was that we talked about with, it was another undersized guy. And I want to say it was a goalie who just talked about, like, you know, if I'm going to do this, I have to have that kind, like, my build, you know, being realistic with everything. I'm not trying to, like, you know, harp on the guy for being undersized or whatever, but, like, there's some of that, like, okay, well, I have to play like this.
Right.
I have to have that kind of work ethic. I have to have this kind of drive if I want to get there. And so, like you said, all these guys love coming to the rink and playing hockey and all that stuff, but I also think there's a different kind of love and passion for it. You know, we talked about this with Jared Bednar, that you have to have when you are a bubble guy. You're not a guarantee to make the NHL roster, and you got to just keep working to just get your shot. It's a different type of love and passion than, you know, the way that Nathan MacKinnon loves showing up to the rink. It's same, but different.
Yeah, like Logan O'Connor playing his B game every night and not falling short of that, right? Like striving for the A game and letting the B game be the floor. To do that consistently, season by season, is so much work on the body. It takes such a heavy toll, so you have to absolutely love what you're doing.
And not only that, but, like, you know, Logan O'Connor doesn't have the luxury of dropping his, you know, game below a B game. Anything else for today, Megan? We got a whole weekend of games and practices and all that stuff coming up.
The locker room redesign.
Yeah, great call out. The Avs practice locker room got a nice little refresh. Not a complete top to bottom transformation, but better use of space, some better lighting in there too, Mark, which I know you'll appreciate. And no more logo on the floor.
I'm so glad. There were so many times where, in an effort to avoid stepping on it, I was nearly going to trip and fall and really embarrass myself. So I'm just really glad that's done.
Well, and like when we get into the season and the locker room is, you know, full up with guys, because like today there's not a lot of guys in there. There's guys moving around. The hamper is always kind of in the middle, so we're sidestepping the hamper. We're sidestepping players that are coming in, all while trying to, like, jump over the logo, especially once it gets closer to playoff time and there's more of the news cameras and stuff in. It'll be a much better setup, I think.
Very excited.
But there were a couple guys that were shuffled around. My normal, like, oh, Kale's over here, goalies are over here. Some things got moved a little bit. And
yeah, I'm curious if it stays that way, because now the goalies are on just a totally different part of the room.
And they're separated.
So I'm very curious to see if that stays.
Yeah, or if it's just this shuffling for right now. But looked good in there.
Yeah,
and
looked really good.
Everybody, Avs fans, all agree. Any amount of facelifting that you can do here at Family Sports is good.
Yes.
That's going to do it. We'll be back at it all weekend, not from Family Sports, but from the South Suburban Ice Arena that is not very far from here. Come on down. I think the tickets are still on sale. I don't think it's sold out quite yet, but make sure you're checking. Always a fun tournament. First game is tomorrow, then the Avs play again on Sunday with a practice day wedged there in between. But all over at South River Ice Arena, so we won't be back here at Family Sports this weekend, Megan, but a lot of hockey coming our way.
Come say hi.
Come say hi. We will be there all weekend long. She's Meghan Angley. I'm Jesse Montaño. Mark behind the lens today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will talk to you tomorrow.
Bye.
Have a good one. See ya.